Right now, at this very moment, Manchester United find themselves standing at one of the most fascinating crossroads the club has seen in years. The season is over. The final whistle has blown at the Amex Stadium in Brighton. Manchester United won 3-0. And yet, the noise coming out of this club is not about what just happened on the pitch. It is about everything that is about to happen off it. There is a record broken. There is a captain being fought over. There are players coming in, players going out, and a manager who has just been handed the biggest vote of confidence a dressing room can give. And sitting underneath all of that is a very clear message from the people inside this club about the direction they believe they are heading. So let us take this apart. Let us go through everything, piece by piece, and make sure you understand exactly what is happening at Manchester United right now. Because there is a lot, and most people are only seeing part of the picture. Before we go any further, let me be very honest with you about what was at stake just 24 hours ago. Bruno Fernandes, the captain of Manchester United, was on the edge of history. 20 assists in the Premier League, one short of the all-time record jointly held by Thierry Henry and Kevin De Bruyne. One match left. Brighton away, a dead rubber for many. But for Fernandes and for everyone watching closely, this was not a dead rubber at all. It was a chance to cement a season that many people, even inside Old Trafford, did not see coming. And he did it. 21 assists in 35 Premier League matches. That is the new record. That is now history. And that changes the entire conversation about this player, this season, and this club. If you want deeper analysis on stories like this, if you want someone to sit down and actually walk you through what is happening and why it matters, then hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists to give you the full picture, not the headlines. The full picture. Now let us get into it. Elliot Anderson and the Manchester clubs. The first piece of the summer transfer window is already moving faster than most people realise. Here is what is known right now. There is a growing acceptance that Elliot Anderson, the Nottingham Forest midfielder, will be sold this summer. Both Manchester clubs are at the front of the queue. That means Manchester United and Manchester City are both in the race. Now here is the part that matters most. Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis is using the £115 million sale of Moises Caicedo from Brighton to Chelsea as his benchmark. He wants a price that breaks the current transfer record for an English player. That is an enormous number. That is a statement of intent from a club that knows it holds a highly valuable asset and refuses to let him go cheaply. My analysis on this is straightforward. If Marinakis is genuinely anchoring to the Caicedo sale, then both Manchester clubs are going to be asked to dig very deep. The fact that both clubs are reported to be in the queue tells you Anderson is a player of serious interest. But the price will be the obstacle. At that level, every pound matters. And right now, it is a rumour and a reported position, not a confirmed deal. Viewers should treat it as exactly that. Shea, Charles and Southampton. Manchester United are also being linked with a completely different type of midfielder, Shea Charles, 21 years old, currently at Southampton. The background here is important. Southampton have been in the news for their so-called Spygate controversy. And amid all of that noise, Manchester United have registered their interest in Charles. Southampton are reportedly demanding around £20 million. That is a very different number to the Elliot Anderson situation. £20 million is a manageable fee for a club of Manchester United's size. My analysis. At 21 years old, Charles is a player with development potential. The interest is described as growing, and at £20 million, this is a rumour that could move quickly if the club decides to act. But it is still a rumour. There is no confirmed bid, no reported personal terms, and no indication of how far along these talks may be. Viewers should treat this as early-stage interest only. Bruno Fernandes versus Roy Keane. Now this one is different from everything else on today's agenda. This is personal. This is internal. And this tells you something very clear about the character of the Manchester United captain. Here is what happened. Bruno Fernandes has publicly stated that Roy Keane put words in his mouth following an interview about the Premier League assist record. The words Fernandes used were direct and unambiguous. He said, and I am quoting directly here, "What I do not like is when people lie." That is the Manchester United captain calling out a Manchester United legend, publicly, with no softening of the language. My analysis. This matters for a very specific reason. Fernandes is not a player who says things carelessly. He has shown throughout this season that he communicates with purpose. The fact that he chose to confront this publicly rather than quietly tells you he felt strongly enough about the accuracy of his own words that he was not prepared to let it pass. It also tells you something about his confidence levels right now. A player who has just broken the all-time Premier League assist record, won the Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year award, and been named Player of the Season does not feel the need to shrink. He responds. And he responds directly. That is the personality of the man now leading this football club. Marcus Rashford and Barcelona. This one is much more advanced than a rumour, and viewers need to understand that clearly. Here is the situation. Barcelona are set to hold talks this week with Manchester United to try and agree a deal for Marcus Rashford. Rashford already has personal terms in place with Barcelona and is waiting for a club-to-club agreement to be reached. Manchester United have consistently told Barcelona to pay the €30 million release clause. My analysis. The key phrase there is consistently told. This is not a one-time conversation. Manchester United have repeatedly directed Barcelona to that clause. That suggests the club has a firm position and is not negotiating below it. Rashford, meanwhile, has already agreed personal terms. That means his side of the deal is done. The only thing left is the club-to-club conversation. If Barcelona meet the €30 million clause, this moves very quickly. If they try to negotiate below it, Manchester United have already shown they will not move. The situation is cleaner than many transfer stories. Both sides know the number. The question is simply whether Barcelona will pay it. El Hadji Malick Diouf from West Ham. Manchester United are monitoring a 20-year-old Senegalese left-back named El Hadji Malick Diouf, currently at West Ham. The context here is important. West Ham have been relegated, and that changes the dynamics of any deal significantly. The belief inside the club is that a deal could progress quickly in the coming weeks. United believe his athleticism, versatility, and attacking ability match the profile they are looking for in a left-back. My analysis. The relegation of West Ham is the key factor here. A club dropping to the Championship will almost certainly need to sell. A player of this profile, 20 years old, with a specific skill set that matches Manchester United's requirements, becomes far more accessible when his current club is heading to the second division. This is smart recruitment logic. You identify the player early, you let circumstances create the opportunity, and then you move. The reported growing belief that a deal can happen quickly is significant. This one should be watched closely. Benjamin Sesko and his words about Manchester United. This one is already generating considerable excitement, and with good reason. Benjamin Sesko has spoken about Manchester United. His words are worth reading carefully because they are specific, positive, and they tell a story about a player who has genuinely bought into something. He said, and I am reading his words as reported, that the history of Manchester United is obviously very special, but what really excites him is the future. He said when the project was discussed, it was clear that everything is in place for the team to continue to grow and compete for the biggest trophies again soon. He described feeling positive energy and a family environment from the moment he arrived. My analysis. Those words suggest Sesko has already had significant conversations with the club. You do not speak about arriving and feeling the environment unless you have physically been there. The language around the project being discussed and everything being in place also suggests detailed conversations have taken place. This is not the vague language of a player casually linked with a club. This is the language of someone who has been genuinely engaged in a serious process. Whether this moves to a confirmed deal remains to be seen, but these are encouraging words for Manchester United supporters. Bruno Fernandes, contract talks begin. Now we get to arguably the most important piece of Manchester United news today, and it comes directly from a source that carries significant weight. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Manchester United have started behind-the-scenes conversations to keep Bruno Fernandes. The language used is very clear. It is the desire of everyone at the club, from the management to the teammates. They are all very happy with Bruno. My analysis. The phrase from management to teammates is deliberate. That is not a statement about wages or contract length. That is a statement about culture. When a club describes a situation as the desire of everyone, they are telling you this is not a difficult negotiation from their side. The club wants him. The dressing room wants him. The management wants him. The starting position for these talks is one of complete alignment at Manchester United's end. What happens next depends on Fernandes himself, and his contract runs until 2027. The club still has time. But beginning conversations now, immediately after the season, tells you this is a priority. Michael Carrick and Aiden Heaven. This story is short, but it is telling. After the 3-0 win over Brighton, Michael Carrick ignored the celebrations around him. He did not go to the away supporters. He did not soak in the admiration. Instead, he walked directly to Aiden Heaven, a young player who had been an unused substitute throughout the match. Carrick put his arm on Heaven's shoulder. He spent around 30 seconds speaking to him. Heaven nodded and appeared to appreciate the gesture. My analysis. 30 seconds does not sound like much. But in the context of a final day celebration, with a crowd cheering, with a result secured, those 30 seconds say everything about the priorities of the man now in charge of Manchester United's first team. He saw a young player on the edge of the celebrations, feeling left out, and he chose that moment to make sure that player felt seen. That is not a tactical decision. That is a leadership decision. And it is exactly the kind of detail that tells you who a manager really is when no one is watching. Except someone was watching, and it matters. Bruno Fernandes will stay this summer. Let me be direct about this one, because the language used here is as clear as it gets. According to Fabrizio Romano, Bruno Fernandes will stay at Manchester United this summer. Behind the scenes, work has already begun. Plans for new contract talks are in motion. Ownership, management, coaching staff, and teammates are all united in their desire to keep him as a vital leader in the dressing room. My analysis. When Fabrizio Romano uses the language of will stay, that is not speculation. That is a confirmed position from inside the club. Combined with what we know about the behind-the-scenes conversations already beginning, the picture is clear. Fernandes is not going anywhere this summer. The only question is the length and terms of the new deal. But the outcome, based on everything now confirmed, appears to be settled. Bruno Fernandes will be a Manchester United player next season. Mateus Fernandes from West Ham. Manchester United have made inquiries about another West Ham player. This time, it is Mateus Fernandes, a 21-year-old Portuguese midfielder. The situation is interesting. The player is valued at around £80 million. But with West Ham now relegated to the Championship, that valuation could drop. Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain are also reported to be monitoring him closely. My analysis. This is an inquiry stage. Not a bid. Not confirmed talks. An inquiry. That is the earliest possible stage of transfer interest. The significant detail here is that multiple major clubs are watching, which means any deal will require Manchester United to move decisively if they are serious. The West Ham relegation is again the factor that makes this more accessible than it would otherwise be. At £80 million in the Premier League, this is a difficult fee. At Championship prices, that number may look very different. But viewers should be clear. This is a rumour at enquiry stage. Nothing more at this point. Bruno Fernandes on what Manchester United needs. Bruno Fernandes spoke with clarity about what Manchester United needs to be successful. His words are important and deserve to be heard in full. He said the main thing the club needs is stability in terms of managing. He went further. He said that if you really believe that Michael Carrick is the guy and you took him to the job, then you have to give him the foundations he needs to build what he thinks is necessary for a successful team. My analysis. This is the Manchester United captain delivering a message to the board and to the ownership. It is measured, it is respectful, but it is direct. Fernandes is saying in plain language that the cycle of managerial change has to stop. He is pointing to Carrick specifically. He is saying that if the decision has been made, then commit to it properly. That is not a random observation. That comes from a player who has lived through significant managerial instability at this club. He has seen what inconsistency costs, and he is using his platform at the peak of his individual achievements to say what he believes the club needs to do next. The board would be unwise to ignore it. Patrick Dorgu on Michael Carrick. Patrick Dorgu also spoke about Michael Carrick, and his words add important context to the manager's standing within the squad. Dorgu said Carrick just wants the team to play free, enjoy the game, and play for the badge. He described him as having a lot of good ideas. And he said the entire squad is excited for next season. My analysis. You cannot fake that kind of language from a young player. Dorgu is 21 years old. He does not have the motivation to say things for political reasons in the way an experienced player might. When a player of his age says the whole squad is excited for next season under a specific manager, that is genuine enthusiasm. Combine that with everything Bruno Fernandes said about stability and commitment to Carrick, and the picture inside that dressing room becomes very clear. There is a belief in the direction. There is energy around the future. That is a positive foundation. Bruno Fernandes on Erik ten Hag. This is a fascinating window into a previous managerial relationship. Bruno Fernandes revealed that former manager Erik ten Hag asked him to shoot less from outside the penalty area. Ten Hag showed Fernandes his shooting statistics, his shots on target percentage, and his goals record, and identified the positions where Fernandes was most effective. He then told Fernandes to position himself in those zones before shooting. My analysis. What makes this interesting is not the tactical detail itself. It is the openness with which Fernandes is now discussing it. He is talking about a previous manager, a manager who is no longer at the club, in a reflective rather than critical way. He is describing a coaching conversation that influenced how he plays. And the result of that influence, combined with everything else this season, is a player who just broke the Premier League assist record. The tactical clarity that Ten Hag brought to Fernandes around his shooting positions appears to have contributed to a player who became more efficient, more decisive in the right areas, and ultimately more effective. That is worth acknowledging even if the broader managerial tenure ended as it did. Why Bruno Fernandes said no to £100 million from Saudi Arabia. Now let us go to what I believe is the most important story in this entire collection of news today, because this is not about a transfer rumour or a contract update. This is about the character and the values of the man wearing the armband at Manchester United. Last summer, Al Hilal from the Saudi Pro League put an offer on the table for Bruno Fernandes. The figure reported was between £80 million and £100 million. That is a number that would make most people stop and think very seriously. Fernandes stopped, he thought. And then he called his wife, Ana Pinho. He was in Hong Kong at the time, on the post-season tour. The time difference made the conversation difficult. But he made the call, and what his wife said to him is the heart of this story. She asked him whether he had achieved everything he wanted to achieve in his career. She asked whether this was the next step he genuinely wanted to take for his future. And Fernandes gave his own answer to those questions. He said the Premier League is the best league in the world. He said it is where he is going to enjoy his football, and that he is not going to enjoy it in any other place. And then he said something that should make every Manchester United supporter feel something. He said they still have dreams to fulfill. My analysis. Think about what was on the table. Between £80 and £100 million. A move that would have been financially life-changing. A move that required no risk because his ability to perform in the Premier League was already proven. He could have taken the money and no one would have seriously questioned it. But instead, the first person he called was his wife. Not to discuss the money, not to discuss the lifestyle. She asked him a question about his career ambitions and his football identity. And his answer was to stay. That is the decision of a player who is not finished. Who does not believe his story is complete. Who genuinely believes that the best version of himself is still in the Premier League, and who ended the following season by breaking the all-time Premier League assist record. The timing of that rejection of Saudi Arabia now feels even more significant. Had he left, last season never happens. The record never gets broken. Manchester United do not finish third. The story is completely different. Instead, he stayed. And everything that followed was because he stayed. Gary Lineker, Alan Shearer, and the Premier League Player of the Season. The final piece of today's analysis is about recognition, and about the debate around it. Bruno Fernandes finished the 2025-26 Premier League season with 21 assists from 35 appearances. That is a new record. He also scored 9 goals in all competitions and registered 22 assists across all competitions in 37 matches. He won the Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year. He won the Premier League Player of the Season, and he claimed a record equaling 5th Sir Matt Busby Player of the Year award. Gary Lineker addressed all of this on his podcast. He said Fernandes had an absolutely brilliant season and called the individual awards deserved. He acknowledged that a case could be made for Arsenal players including Declan Rice, Gabriel and David Raya, but made the point that this is an individual award. And in terms of individual impact, Fernandes stood out. Alan Shearer offered a different perspective. He said his personal choice would have been David Raya or Declan Rice, but he did not argue against Fernandes winning. He said he understood all the arguments. He called Fernandes a great player who had a brilliant season. My analysis. What I find most interesting about the Lineker and Shearer conversation is not the disagreement. It is the fact that even the person who would have voted differently says he is not going to argue against the outcome. That is a significant level of respect for what Fernandes produced this season. The argument that Arsenal was more of a team effort versus Fernandes standing out as an individual is a legitimate distinction, and it is the distinction that likely won Fernandes the award. When one player is the clear difference maker for his club, when his individual statistics set an all-time record, when the entire season can be traced back through his assists and influence, that is what individual awards are designed to recognise. 21 Premier League assists. More than Thierry Henry. More than Kevin De Bruyne. Those are the names that define this record, and that is the company Bruno Fernandes now keeps in the all-time history books. Let me bring everything together. Manchester United have just finished a season with Bruno Fernandes as Premier League record holder, Player of the Season, and Football Writers' Footballer of the Year. The club is already working behind the scenes to keep him long-term. Michael Carrick has the full support of the captain and the dressing room. The transfer activity suggests a clear plan to improve the squad with young, athletic, versatile players from clubs in weakened positions. The Rashford situation appears to be moving toward a conclusion at €30 million. The Sesko situation feels advanced based on the language used. The Elliot Anderson interest is real, but at a price that needs careful navigation. The West Ham players are at earlier stages and should be treated as interest, not confirmed pursuit. And underneath all of it is a captain who was offered £100 million to leave, called his wife, listened to the right question, and decided he was not finished yet. That decision, made quietly in Hong Kong last summer, may end up being the most important moment of Manchester United's recent history. Because everything good that followed was built on it. That is the full picture for today. If this kind of analysis is what you are looking for, if you want someone who goes through every detail, separates the confirmed from the rumour, and gives you the real story behind the headlines, then subscribe to Adam United Analyst. We are here every time something important happens. And at Manchester United right now, something important is happening almost every single day. Stay with us. The summer is only just beginning.